Welcome to the Tennet Indigenous Wisdom Research Center. I am your host, author Tennet Setegn. In this broadcast series, we explore the profound mysteries within our research. Ethiopian esoteric philosophy and alchemy. Our journey into channeling hidden wisdom begins now.
Imagine you are exactly 30 years old.
Right, just perfectly preserved.
Yeah. No wrinkles forming around your eyes, no cellular decay happening under your skin.
No passing seconds ticking away your youth.
Exactly. You just exist locked in your prime while mountains literally crumble around you.
And oceans dry up, millennia pass.
It's wild to think about. To modern science, you would be a biological impossibility, like a frozen anomaly. But according to the ancient indigenous cosmology we are exploring today, you wouldn't just be alive.
No, you would actually be the only thing in the entire universe experiencing true life.
Which is just a staggering thought. Welcome to this deep dive, everyone. Today we are taking you on a journey into a concept that will completely upend how you view your own existence, your daily routines, and, well, the relentless ticking of the clock.
It really challenges everything.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we need to know where this is coming from before we get into the weeds.
Right. So, to understand how radical this idea is, we have to look at the source material. We are pulling from Part 8 of the Tennet Indigenous Wisdom Research today.
Which is such a fascinating text.
It really is. For some context for you listening, Tennet refers to a deeply esoteric, ancient cosmological framework. It originates from the Horn of Africa, utilizing ancient linguistic traditions like Gaze and Amharic.
Right.
And in this framework, they use the word Hayat for life. But I need to be clear here, this text is not a biological study. It is basically a map of foundational reality.
Right, it's not looking at heartbeats or metabolism or brainwaves.
Exactly. It doesn't care about any of that. It cares about absolute, unbroken continuity.
Unbroken continuity.
Cool.
Okay, before we go further into Part 8, what exactly does that mean in the context of this cosmology? Because, when we say life, we usually mean the messy, dynamic process of breathing and eating and moving, right?
Or we think of biology.
Yeah. So how does this text actually define Hayat?
Well, in the Tennet framework, life isn't an emergent property. It's not something that just happens when cells start dividing on a wet planet. Life is actually classified as one of 10 primordial foundational creatures.
So it's like a building block.
Exactly. Think of it as a root force of the universe, originating in a hidden celestial realm. And its absolute defining characteristic is continuity. True life means remaining in an original, unaltered state indefinitely.
Unaltered indefinitely.
Yes. It is the ability to exist without any external pressures or environmental factors causing decay, alteration, or, honestly, even the slightest change.
Honestly, that sounds less like life and more like a wax museum.
A wax museum. Right.
If I am 30 years old forever, I never learn, I never adapt, I never grow. I'm just a static statue. How can this text possibly argue that permanent paralysis is the ultimate form of existence? Everything we know about vitality is based on movement and adaptation.
What's fascinating here is that it sounds like a nightmare to our modern minds, specifically because we constantly equate change with vitality.
Right, we celebrate growth.
We do. We celebrate the idea of adapting to our surroundings. But the Tennet framework flips that completely on its head. It argues that our need to adapt is actually a symptom of our profound weakness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You only have to adapt if your environment is actively trying to destroy you.
That is a dark way to look at it, but yeah, I see the logic.
In this celestial concept of life, perfection requires no adaptation. You are whole, complete, and impervious. The text argues that earthly motion, the constant shedding of cells, the aging, the shifting, it isn't vitality at all.
It's decay.
Yes. It is the visible evidence of a creature slowly losing a battle against a hostile environment.
So the Earth is basically this giant anti-continuity machine.
That's a great way to put it.
But that begs the question. If true life is this pure, unchanging continuity, why is it so impossible to achieve here? And the sources point directly to one specific culprit. And it isn't biology, and it isn't disease. It's time.
Time is the ultimate antagonist in this framework. The text draws a very sharp mathematical contrast between the celestial realm, where life originates, and our earthly realm. In the celestial realm, time doesn't drag or erode, but on Earth, The conversion rate is just staggering.
It's massive.
Yeah. The cosmology states that what is merely one single day in the celestial realm equates to 1,000 years in our earthly dimension.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's break down the physical implications of that, because that isn't just a neat piece of mythological trivia, right?
Absolutely not. It has real mechanics.
Right. To move through 1,000 earthly years in a single celestial day requires intense, accelerated motion. I'm thinking about this on an atomic level. If you cram 1,000 years of existence into 24 hours, the molecules, the cells, the very structure of an object has to vibrate and collide and break down at a staggering rate.
That's violent.
It is. Time isn't just a measurement on a clock here. It is a thermodynamic grinder.
It is pure kinetic friction. The text actually describes earthly time as an immense heavy pressure. Imagine standing at the bottom of the Mariana Trench.
Oh man, just crushed instantly.
Exactly. The sheer weight of the water will warp and crush almost any object you place down there. Well, time, in the earthly realm, functions exactly like that deep-sea pressure. It violently accelerates change.
It just batters you.
It constantly batters physical creatures, making permanence mathematically impossible without some kind of outside intervention.
Think about how much energy you as a listener spend just trying to maintain your baseline every single day.
Right, just to stay at zero.
Yeah. You sleep for 8 hours, you drink water, you go to the gym, you meticulously apply some 12-step skincare routine, you eat 3 meals. This text is essentially saying that deep exhaustion you feel at the end of the day.
It's not just your job.
No. That is the 1,000-year temporal friction literally trying to grind you into dust. You are constantly fighting the thermodynamic pressure of the earthly realm.
And because of that constant, unwinnable fight, the text arrives at a startling conclusion. Due to this relentless, crushing force, almost all earthly beings are not actually considered living in the true celestial sense of Hiwatt.
Wait, I want to make sure I'm grasping the scale of this. This text looks at a thriving rainforest filled with jaguars and exotic birds and massive ancient ferns and categorizes all of it as not living.
According to Part 8, yes.
That is wild.
They are classified as perishable, temporary, and destructible. Because they cannot withstand that 1,000-year pressure, because they are constantly decaying, altering, and having to adapt just to survive the day, they do not possess true life.
They're just moving really fast.
Exactly. They are merely passing through a state of temporary animation on their way to inevitable destruction. True life requires unyielding continuity, and a rainforest is defined by constant, violent turnover.
Okay, so if that pure celestial force of life is brought into this cosmic meat grinder, what happens to it? Why subject this perfect, unyielding continuity to an environment that is practically designed to crush it?
Well, the framework doesn't view Earth as a mistake. It views it as a crucible, a profound test. When that singular, unified force of celestial life manifests on Earth, it immediately slams into that temporal pressure we just discussed. The intense environmental friction forces the singular element to split down one of two paths.
Because it can't just stand still.
Right. Because it cannot remain naturally static here, it is forced into an oscillating cycle.
The path of growth and the path of decay. The text outlines this beautifully, I think, as a constant duality, coming and going, dying and rising, drying up and greening.
It really is poetic. The sources use the analogy of a tree to ground this esoteric concept. A tree begins by taking the first path. It pushes back against the temporal pressure. It experiences the greening phase. It grows, it blossoms, it reaches up toward the sun. It is fighting to establish its continuity.
But the house always wins, right? The 1,000-year weight of time never stops pressing down. Eventually, the tree exhausts its physical ability to resist. The friction is just too much.
It hits its limit.
Yeah, it stops growing, it shifts onto the second path, it dries up, falls over, and eventually rots into the forest floor. I mean, it was animated, it fought good fight, but it couldn't maintain its continuity.
Which brings us to the consequence of that failure. The text is very clear that when a creature fails to maintain its continuity, it doesn't just peacefully fade to black. It is swallowed up by another creature.
It's swallowed up?
Yes. One being perishes into another. It takes on the other's name, the other's glory, and it loses its original identity entirely.
Let's unpack that concept of being swallowed up, because earlier my mind went straight to the carbon cycle, biology, but I think it's much deeper than that.
Yeah.
Let's say I build a massive, intricate Lego castle.
Okay, a Lego castle.
That castle has a distinct identity. The specific arrangement of those blocks makes it a castle. But then time, or in this case my cat, knocks it over.
A very earthly force.
Exactly. A kid comes along, scoops up those exact same blocks, and builds a spaceship. The spaceship swallowed the castle. The physical matter, the plastic blocks, they survived perfectly fine. But the unique, sovereign identity of the castle is gone forever. It was erased.
That is exactly it. And that is the ultimate terror of the earthly realm within the Tennet framework. The environment doesn't necessarily destroy the underlying matter, but it destroys your unique identity.
Right.
When the tree rots, the moss and the fungi swallow it up. The moss takes the glory of the tree's nutrients. The specific arrangement of matter that made the tree what it was is repurposed.
So it's an identity crisis.
Completely. The earthly test is a battle for identity. You either preserve who you are eternally, or you are ground down by time and your essence is hijacked by something else.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. If the math is completely stacked against us, and time is an undefeated thermodynamic grinder, how does anything survive the Lego destruction? How do you resist the path of decay, keep your identity from being swallowed, and achieve that perfect continuity?
How do you become the 30-year-old forever?
Exactly. How do you stay 30 forever?
Well, the text is clear that a physical creature cannot achieve this perfect continuity on its own merit.
It's impossible.
Mathematically impossible. The earthly friction is just too great to overcome in isolation. To win the struggle, the text introduces the concept of divine intervention, specifically referred to as the Ma'ekele nature.
So what does this all mean? The Ma'ekele nature. The sources describe this as the creator's nature, or the creator's wisdom, or even the creator's eyes. Why do eyes or wisdom act as a physical shield against time?
It sounds strange at first.
It sounds very poetic. But mechanically, how does observation stop kinetic friction?
Think about it through the lens of modern quantum mechanics.
Oh, interesting.
We know from the famous double-slit experiment that the mere act of observing a quantum particle fundamentally changes its behavior. Observation collapses the wave function. It forces a chaotic, shifting particle to pick a fixed, definite state.
Wow. Okay, I see where you're going.
Right. In the Tennet ancient framework, the creator's eyes functioning as a shield works on a remarkably similar cosmic principle. Absolute, perfect, divine observation fixes a creature in its perfect state.
That is mind-blowing. So the creator's gaze is basically the ultimate observer effect.
Exactly.
When this Ma'ekele wisdom rests on a creature, it halts the kinetic friction because the ultimate observer is holding it perfectly still. It creates an impenetrable shield against those 1,000-year pressures.
And remember, the temporal pressure is still crashing down all around the creature. The earthly environment is just as volatile. The clock is still moving at a terrifying speed. But inside that Ma'ekele shield, the creature is completely insulated.
They freeze in time?
They freeze in time, overcoming death completely and stepping entirely off that oscillating pendulum of growth and destruction. They have proven their continuity.
But how does a human attain this compared to, say, the tree? The tree just fights until it dies. Is it our consciousness that changes the game here?
Consciousness is the key differentiator.
Because we know what's happening.
Yes, the tree is purely reactive to its environment. But humans possess the capacity to understand the crucible. A human can consciously seek out, align with, and prepare themselves to receive this Ma'ekele wisdom. We have the internal agency to pursue continuity rather than just blindly riding the wave of adaptation until we crash.
And the sources tease something incredible regarding that human pursuit. Part 8 hints at much broader discussions within this indigenous cosmology about specific human lineages who have supposedly conquered death in exactly this way.
It gets really deep into the lore.
People who have successfully navigated the crucible, attained the Ma'ekele nature, and preserved their unbroken continuity. They are allegedly existing right now, hidden from the corrosive effects of earthly time, completely unbothered by the friction that is grinding the rest of us down.
It suggests that the frozen 30-year-old isn't just a thought experiment. The framework posits that there are historical or esoteric precedents for humans who have stepped off the path of decay.
It's not just theory.
No, they serve as proof that the earthly arena can be beaten. It forces us to reconsider the boundaries of human potential when aligned with foundational celestial forces.
It is a staggering concept.
Yeah.
We've gone from looking at a bouncing green line on a hospital monitor to exploring quantum-level divine observation. We have completely redefined life. It isn't a heartbeat. It is an eternal, unchanging continuity that refuses to be swallowed by the environment.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it leaves us looking at our own lives through a very different lens. Every time we adapt, every time we change our minds, every time our bodies age, we are experiencing the deep-sea pressure of earthly time.
We're being crushed.
Slowly, yes. The framework asks us to stop celebrating our impermanence and start questioning what it would take to achieve true stillness.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you, the listener, to mull over today. Building on everything we've unpacked from the Tennet wisdom. If true life means remaining entirely unchanged by the environment, and if our current physical world is defined entirely by change, friction, and the relentless pressure of time, is our entire earthly experience just a temporary forge?
A fiery one.
Think about your hardest days. Think about the moments when you feel entirely exhausted by the demands of life, by the need to constantly reinvent yourself just to keep up. What if that exhaustion is the friction of the universe testing your structural integrity? Is every struggle, every joy, every moment of your life just a high-pressure test designed to see if your true sovereign identity can survive being swallowed up and repurposed by the void? Are you just a Lego castle waiting to be knocked down, or are you the 30-year-old seeking the wisdom to stand perfectly still in the storm? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Tennet Indigenous wisdom research. Keep questioning the world around you, keep looking past the obvious, and we will catch you next time.